Hello.
Love the spin. That was
I need the hello and welcome. That's Luke Wallace.
That's Shannon's thought. No, that's Shannon's thought. Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh. Welcome, journeyers. Listen, if you are just now joining us, like right this very second, then you've missed the whole intro and you don't know where you are. So welcome to Improv On and Off the Topic, where Luke Wallens, registered drama therapist, and myself, registered improv extraordinaire, talk to you about improv and how it shows up in your life, why it shows up in your life, how we can use it, how we can utilize it, wield it to our wiles, apparently craft spells with it. but really just talk about improv in a way that helps us navigate our life. There it is. I said it. Navigate our lives, which navigation is the theme of the month. And so, Luke, I get to do that thing that I learned to do.
Yay!
Ta-da!
Ooh.
What about navigation itself? With no goal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been talking about all sorts of ways to navigate, all sorts of like how we navigate for others, how we take the wheel from other people, how we navigate through relationships, how we navigate through friendships, what does it mean to be the leader? What does it mean to be the follower? We've talked about all of these things. And usually we are talking sort of about a goal, having some sort of goal. And specifically when we're talking about improv, we're talking about the scene, right? Being the goal. But even within the scene, there are some underlying foundational goals, right? And those are the things between the actual improvisers. So that we talk about character, story, beginning, middle, end, relationship, these types of things. Those are the foundation. Those, we sort of want to establish those goals or reach those goals in the scene. But the scene itself doesn't necessarily have a goal, right? We're not like trying to get to Little Red Riding Hood's cabin like every time. Right? We're not trying to do that. And so, I was thinking about, if we're in the middle of the woods, or if we have a map and we're just like, we're doing that thing where we're like, I don't know, let's get in the car and drive. Let's do it, Luke. Come on.
Let's do it. Ready?
Let's get in the car and drive. What then becomes the tool of navigation, and what is the purpose really of navigation? So let's talk about it.
Ooh, yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in. Like I was when we were like talking about like improv, like there was it's really fascinating. I was doing tech for improv festival yesterday, and like there were like different shows going on all the time, and one after the other, and there was a guest from the audience that was invited up on stage, and like the host had explained the game, like, and it was it was kind of basically, it was kind of like, oh no, it was Half-Life, where basically one person tells a story, and then they recreate the story in half the time, then half the time, then half the time to get it just really fun. And so, but at the same time, the guest, they got up on stage, they volunteered, they were there, and then they're like, wait, what do I talk about? Like, and the thing is, like what sprang into my head was like, oh yeah, just talk about, like, just what's the morning routine that you have, or that's my always go to for suggestion. They went with it was like Halloween themed kind of story, so they went. And so, but yeah, like, lots of times, as me as an improviser goes up on stage and be like, okay, cool, great. I'm going to yes, and I'm going to, oh, and like, and so it's like, so it gets kind of confusing. But at the same time, it's like, okay, wait, like, what, one, I need to breathe. Two, just like, and need to, like, find what's fun, find what's interesting. Sometimes there, with their suggestion of Halloween, they went there, whereas I was like, yeah, my suggestion would be like, go for boring, because then we'll figure out how to have fun with it and just kind of like go from there. But
yeah, you're talking about, like, when what I'm hearing is you'll get on stage, you'll have this goal, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna yes, yeah, I'm gonna yes, and I'm gonna do the thing, and then you're like, ha, 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 or
yeah, it's like, yeah,
or I'm just gonna breathe right now. That's if we can figure that part out, then the rest of it. And that's what you're saying with this, like, the idea of choosing something boring, right? Choosing boring in quotes, but choosing as a suggestion, getting up, what's your morning routine, especially for a non-improviser getting on stage, choosing something like, okay, what is something we know? What is something your morning routine, your job, yourself? Like, what do you know? As basic, foundational as that can be, one, it helps with giving the participant or the volunteer, like, so much to talk about that they don't have to make up and now here I'm trying to get there. That way they aren't pre creating a goal for themselves, right? This idea of like, oh no, it's I have to. What's your favorite childhood story? Oh, well, maybe I have to be funny. Maybe it has to be something funny. It has to be something endearing. It has to be from childhood. Like, what is a child? 5 to 8, 0 to 1. I couldn't read. Right. So this, Luke, that I'm diving into this thing that you said about this boring. So what about navigation itself with no goal? Like, sometimes we do things that we consider boring or that are just like plain, and they give us, and maybe there's no goal, there's no end result, but they give us like joy, or they bring our heart rates down, or they help us focus. And right now I'm thinking about meditation. Just like, there is no goal and it's boring.
Yes.
In the grand scheme of things, it's like, really, you are just sort of sitting there.
Right. But I'm gonna I'm gonna say, at the same time, there's a lot of stuff like, like the even with your meditating, like, there's like your thoughts are going like this, like there's
Mm-hmm.
tons of thoughts, they're happening all the time. And like the goal of it is not to get rid of the thoughts. It's like, it's just to be like, okay, cool, that's a thought, and now back to meditating. Like it's like, cool,
Exactly.
yeah. hmm and like like, and so like, if there's like, even if there's not an onset goal to start off with, you'll find what's going to work for you at that moment. So, and like, you'll navigate towards it. um
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I was uh yeah, when I was teaching improv class, I was talking about like, yeah, like, I mean, you'll like, even if you feel like there's really nothing, going on, there's always something going on, because you're bringing your full body on the stage. Like how you're standing, how you're holding your arms, if you're sitting, or how you're facing another
Mm-hmm.
person, how you're looking at another person or not. There's a lot to be said with body language, even before you start speaking. And then, like, all of a
Right.
sudden you got some words going on, and then all of a sudden you have a scene, and you figure out the scene together.
I love this because we've talked about silence on this show before,
Mhm.
and how people really shy away
Mm.
from being silent on stage.
Yeah.
But the especially when you are with another person, when it's two people on stage and they come on stage, the lights come up, and they're just quiet.
Mhm.
It's so engaging. It can be very engaging to watch two people navigate that silence because, like you said, there isn't there isn't a goal in that moment. There isn't like something that has to be discovered, something that has to be done.
Mhm.
But what we are navigating is the shared space, the shared silence, looking at the other person's body language, seeing what that does to our body language, how it affects our body language.
Mhm.
Just even cueing in and leaning into the audience, and if you can feel the audience like feeling uncomfortable, or if you can feel them getting like starting to laugh,
Yeah.
that that part of it, that part of a scene that really has no goal. We're not looking for story, we're not looking to build character,
Mhm.
we're literally like navigating itself. We're just
Yeah.
like, what what's happening
Mhm.
here? We don't need to know, but how do I lean into just the vibe, the feelings that I'm feeling? Uh, and is that okay? You
Yeah.
know? And on stage, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I mean, well, in drama therapy as well, like, sometimes, like, we have a theme, but like, there comes a point of where it's just like, man, or we feel exhausted with like
Mhm,
having to think about like this theme and all that stuff and all its dimensions. And so it's like, it's always good to find different breaking points and points to take a break, excuse me.
mhm.
So yeah, um, different. And
Luke's not out here like finding your breaking point, okay?
yeah.
He's
Yeah,
not
just
what he's doing.
opposite. No, that is not my goal. So yeah. But yeah, like, and so if finding points to take a mental break, or an emotional
Mhm,
break. And so like, and even like, I mean, going back to where we were talking about earlier, like, I mean, there's a scene that's happening on stage, but there's also everyone else observing and witnessing what's
mhm,
happening. And so like, there's lots of times where it's like, oh, like, because I mean, drama therapy is not for entertainment value, it's
right.
for exploration of these themes. And so there's lots of stuff that could happen, once again, through body language, through what's said, through what's not said, through silence. and that can be observed and pointed out, by people who are witnessing what's happening, as well as like when we reflect afterwards too, like how the person felt in the middle of the scene, and can talk about it further.
I'm wondering, Luke. Okay, so I used to take dance therapy. I did dance therapy for a little tiny bit, and what usually would happen is the woman would let me dance, like just move throughout the room, and then she would speak back to me what she noticed in my movement, and then I would sort of like, oh, that's interesting, I'm going through this sort of thing, I wonder if that la la la, and so we would navigate that. We would navigate that. And I'm wondering for drama therapy, if there are times where clients come in and really have nothing to work on. And then what does that look like, if it even is a thing?
So yeah, like I've definitely had clients who like say that they have nothing to work on, or they're resistant to working on something. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, all right, I'm gonna meet you where you're at. If you want to observe for a little bit and then participate, you're totally welcome. You're welcome at any point to involve yourself, whatever level that you want. So that's always my approach.
Mhm.
But then also, I mean, there comes a it's with any kind of art, like you find inspiration in different ways,
Yeah.
and being like, oh wow, I like that one music lyric that it keeps on going in my brain and I don't know why, or I love it and I want to play
Mm.
that all the time, you know, or and so with scenes, like if there's a scene that's really inspiring, we can think about it like, how does it end in different ways, or how can we change
Mm.
the ending in different ways, or we've seen this character interact with this other character for a long while. What other characters are in this world that we can explore? Like, who else can they talk with about it? And maybe it's like, do we go to the future? Do we go to the past? Like, how do we um, figure out something, that is pertinent to them?
Yeah.
And how can we look at the different dimensions to play with that and to get it up on its feet? And use talk therapy, but also like use that and put it on our feet to do that.
Yeah. You said sometimes people come in and they are resistant
Hmm.
to working on something. And that also makes me think about when people come into improv classes or workshops for the first time, and they're just like, I have nothing. I've got nothing. Like, or even if you're a seasoned improviser and you get on stage and you're like, I don't know, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that improv tends to help us with is leaning into that resistance. Something in your brain or your body is resistant to vulnerability.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's the vulnerability, and in being vulnerable we can be creative, but the creativity comes from being vulnerable. We have to open up
Yeah.
a little bit, and
Yeah.
the where I find improv helps us with that resistance is, one, it brings awareness. Like, we're like, oh,
Hmm.
I have nothing. And just this, like, I've got nothing movement, like,
Hmm.
great. Let's lean into the nothing, because the nothing is actually this. So
Yeah.
what do we, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how do we navigate this? What does this even feel like?
Yeah.
Can we walk around like this? And it brings awareness to that, and it makes me think of, like, that's on stage, and
Yeah.
so off stage, this feeling of having no goal. Was it last month that our theme was purpose? One
Hmm.
of these months has been purpose, right?
Yes. Yeah. Last one.
Like floating and having no, feeling like you have no purpose, or feeling like you have no goal. There is still power in that feeling. Like there's still power in leaning into the navigation, like the working through that feeling of having nothing. And the last thing I'll say about that is, I was talking to a woman who owns a craft store. She owns a craft store, and you go in and you can make anything you want. And she said one of the main things that she gets is like people come in and they're just sort of overwhelmed. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's sort of like improv. Like for her, there's like so much stuff, like, you know, googly eyes and glue and glitter and paper and flowers and like, right, there's like so much stuff. And for us as improvisers, there's nothing. There's nothing on stage. And so both, but she gets this, like, she gets the same thing where people come in and they just like this, I have nothing, like I can't put any of this together. And what she says is just move through the space. She tells them to move through the space and see, just gather things that inspire or attract. It doesn't have to be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be like paper, scissors, glue. It can be whatever. Just put it in the basket and put it in front of you and sit with it. And that I feel is the core, like, of navigation with no goal. Like, you're just gonna sit with this paper, just gonna sit it right there in front of me.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That also like brings to mind like, you know, when I what I think is boring is not boring to someone else as well. And so like lots of times like it's you know, like I've gathered like, you know, all those books right there, you know, like, okay, cool, great, whatever, yeah, I've read them, but you know, I'm like and I don't like, I'm like, okay, cool, great, but like it, like to someone else who's coming into the room, you know, it's like, oh, these are your oh, this tells me a lot about you. I'm like, oh, it does. Oh no. So, but also, I mean, you know, like think about, like, you know, when you know, a couple of years ago, you know, during the quarantine of pandemic, you know, like we would always check out, be like, oh, what's behind them, what's behind this person, what are they wearing today, you know, how do they sound, you know, like, you know, like, and we're in these screens, that's it, you know. And but like it's so fascinating. And so like even if you feel like, yeah, I got nothing today, like it's there.
There's so much stuff.
It's all there. You know, like you have so much. Yeah, you have so much. And you know, like to like, even if you feel like you don't have an expectation or a goal of what's happening, you know, with your situation, you have a lot that you're already giving to the situation.
Wow. Yeah. That's big stuff that you just said. I like it is, because we forget that, like, we forget that just by showing up, we have navigated something, and whatever that showing up is, right? Like, I know that I've been in situations where friends are like, you know, friends will say, this is my issue. And you're just like stumped. Like, I've got nothing for you, man. Like, I don't know what to say to that. But just you being there, is what your friend needed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be telling you.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And like, I mean, you know, like I'm going to counter and say you do have something because you are listening and you are understanding where they're coming from. So that's
That's so good. And like that, you know, we're talking about improv, we're talking about drama therapy, but that really encompasses improv, right? You do have something because you are there and you are listening, right? And whatever you're listening to, whether that's your partners, whether it's the audience, whether it's yourself, you've shown up, and we're not asking you to fulfill a goal. We're asking you to work with just the fact that you showed up. Like, let's just explore that. In this case, it feels like we could use navigation and exploration almost in the same as synonyms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, and
Mhm.
yeah, like I think it also like brings in elements of trusting yourself and trust and going back to like okay, like and you know, like looking inward and be like, hey, I've got a lot that I'm giving, and like already, right, through my presence, through just showing up, and like it's wonderful, it's great, like it's so yeah, it's wonderful to share what you want to share and how you want to share. Like, and even if there's no goal, there's also like there's hey, you're with another person, or with many people, and you're all there to be with each other for a little bit. So,
Yeah. Ooh, to be with each other. You're just so nice.
yeah.
And like that part about being with each other for a little bit, it's like it's play.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you're playing. Man, yeah.
Yeah.
You're playing, you're
Yeah.
exploring,
Yeah.
you are navigating, you're doing the thing so that you can release part of your brain, right? You can
Mhm.
when we're talking goal, the cinnamon, wow, the the synonym, the
Yes.
synonym for goal here,
Yeah.
my oh now I've totally because I now my brain went like cinnamon, cinnamon toast crunch,
Mm-hmm.
cinnamon,
Mm-hmm.
like I was just it's gone something about
Oh,
goal
okay. All
and
right.
focus maybe focus, but like the idea being that you are playing uh you're playing,
Mhm.
you're navigating, you're exploring so that you can take your brain off of the focus that it's on. I,
Mhm.
how much time do we have? Great. So, have you have you ever had a thought or specifically a problem that you've been like, I have to focus on this problem. I have to think about it and I can't have any distractions because I've got to fix it or I've got to know what the end of the problem is. And you spend like tons of time really just okay, we're really going to look at this problem and you just don't. You don't come to the answer.
Yeah.
And then you go swimming or jog, you do
Mm-hmm.
something else completely,
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Right, that's the answer
Yeah.
to this problem that was you." Anyway, that's
Oh
you know?
yeah. That's definitely that definition of sleeping on it. It's just like you sleep on it for a bit and come back to it, and yeah, like yeah, because like like our like I've read somewhere that our attention spans are only can only take in so much information for for like 15 to 20 minutes, and then they need a break, like, and then they can come back to it. Um, you know, um, and so like yeah, like our brain isn't designed in a way to like a robot, a machine, just to absorb all the information and then give it out again. And yeah, so it's like we're humans. We need breaks. We need a rest. We need to, and then come back to it.
Mhm,
Because like the brain can, like definitely rewire itself to what needs to happen, but
mhm.
like it needs time to do that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like I've definitely definitely been there and be like, oh yeah, like yesterday, for example, I was doing tech for the show, and so there was one part where I was given like a list of different things for a sketch troupe, and so I was like. I was overwhelmed, but what kicked in was that was like, okay, I need to like just take it one step at a time and just like look at each part and and so just kind of like settle into it. So I couldn't really like step away from it. It would have been great to be like, I gotta go for a jog. I'll be back.
Forget it.
Like,
I'm swimming.
swimming in my mind. So, but like, but what I did instead was like yeah, focus on like, okay, cool. I'm gonna break this down because each sketch is in the scenes, and I'm gonna figure out like what needs to be for each part.
Mhm.
And so even if so that helped me compartmentalize, but also help me like take a break from the big picture about like I have to do this whole thing versus like I'm just going to do one thing of this whole thing, and I'll get this whole thing done by chunking, like taking little chunks into it.
Yeah, it's like, and like the whole big thing, that's the goal, right? But what you did, chunking it down, that's the navigation. And the chunking is just as important, and taking the time to chunk is just as important as looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
And taking the time, I'm taking that and I'm putting it on stage, taking the time to step on stage. And because what I heard you say was, you were like, okay, got to take a breath. Luke and his breaths. He's always wanting to take a breath and just be in the moment. And be in the moment. But it's the same thing on stage when we get on there and our nervous system is like flooded with adrenaline. We don't know what to choose. And our brains is like, forget it. We're flooded. We have nothing. That's the time to take a breath and just move your body and realize that you don't have to have the end of the scene already prepared, right? You can chunk it.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this chunk. You can take a little chunk out of baby chunk, baby chunk, right? And then that part is just as important as the end goal. It's just as important as taking your time and chunking it out so you can get to the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, fine. We're a minute over. That's, I see. I was like, why are you, what's happening? Oh, it's time to go. Like, I have so much to say, Luke. Don't you have so much to say?
I do.
Listen, before we go, actually, we should tell our people, we should tell you, the journeyers of our lives, that this might be one of the last times we see Luke here for Improv On and Off the Topic, because we may be seeing an Emily Arnold Fleming next week. Maybe with baby, maybe not. I don't know, but that's, so just welcome Emily back to On and Off the Topic. And as that is happening, Luke and I are going to move to On and Off the Design. I know, where we're going to just dive a little deeper, a little more about, we're going to keep talking about this, about drama therapy, how it shows up in your life, how improv is a part of that. But Luke, you're amazing. Listen, don't nobody get teary-eyed. Luke is coming back. You'll see Luke again. You know, you'll see them. You'll see Luke on and
off the stage.
That's right. Bye, y'all.